Hello, Shoyan here. It's been a while, but today I'm back with another Carpenter's Sunday DIY project, just for fun. This time I'm making a round glass table, basically placing a round piece of glass on top of a log.
ケヤキやね。
ケヤキ。
はい。何年ぐらい置いてあったやろ。切ってからやったらもう5、6年経っとんちゃうかな。下から生えてきて、こっからバッとこう枝になる。あ、ここにあるね。こういう感じのこの部分やね。こっから枝が分かれる。ね、こっから下だけ製材所で材木家さんが使ったと。小口が削ると結構綺麗になると思うんです。で、大きなガラス置くつもりですから、ここにもね。一本無理にこの枝をこうはわそうかな。
うん、ここに生えるの枝。
ここから突然枝がこう生えてきて、ここで切って大きなテーブルを置こうかなと今ちょっと予想はしとるんですけど。
イメージはできてる。
イメージもできてません。
It's been a while since I've done one of these log projects just for fun. I guess you could say it's a bit of DIY, just making something out of logs. This one's on the smaller side, but the wood itself isn't bad at all. Because the trunk branches off here, when you look from the top, you can see several wood centers. I figured it'd look good once it's done, so I held on to it. I'm planning to use it as the base of the table and really bring out the wood grain. That much I figured out. As for the size and shape, I'll think it through while I cut and work, trying to make the most of what this log has to offer. This log is going to support the glass top, so I just need to make the top and bottom flat and level. To do that, I'm using this board or table surface as a reference since it's already almost flat. I'm marking it out with a marker, measuring the same height up from the bottom. That way, I can draw parallel lines.
結構下はこっち側切ることになるよね。
うわな。
It might sound simple, just cutting it parallel, but a circular saw won't cut it for something this thick, so I'm using a chainsaw. With logs like this, cutting can be dangerous, so safety is key, whether you're working seriously or just doing a project for fun. You gotta lock it down so that it doesn't move while cutting. It's been a while since I pulled out this big chainsaw. I don't think I've used it in over a year. Let's see if it starts smoothly.
からけちゃん。からけつ。よっ。なんというか。
It looked like it fired up after 2 or 3 pulls, but in reality, I had to yank it about 10 or 15 times. Once you hear that brrr from the engine, it feels like you've got it. The chain's still sharp, so I cut through in one go. This log was standing upright on a platform with a veneer on top to keep the rain off. The face I'm cutting now was the top. It's baked hard from the sun and full of cracks. Even with a sharp chainsaw, it wasn't easy to cut. The underside still had some moisture, so that part cut nice and smooth.
パンツのボクサーパンツ。
The part I'm planning now used to be the bottom. I thought it might look more balanced flipped using this side as the top. But since I'm putting glass on top, I want the wider, more open side facing up. So I'm just giving the bottom a quick pass with the electric planer, then I'll move on to cleaning up the sides and top edge properly.
ちょっとここが長いかな。ふんどしか入れるんだな。あ、ヤモリの巣やったんや。
ヤモリ出てきた。
ここにもここに。あれ？あ、ヤモリの尻尾だけ。
ああ、これ尻尾よ。
尻尾だけ。
I want to use this side for the top and work from the separated limb section. It actually splits into two trees right here. Two separate limbs above, one solid trunk below, and up here it looks like it's trying to split into two again. So I see 4 centers in total. Finishing all that cleanly is going to take time, but I'll just tackle one surface at a time.
穴掘ってかし込んだら2つになるな。これもベアリングがもう最後の1回やったよな。あ、これはあれや。
The straight parts can be done with an electric planer. The issue is this rounded side. A regular planer doesn't work on it. We have something called a curved planer, so I use that where I can. But with all the forks, dips, and bulges, even the curved one can't handle it all. For the tough spots, I use a sander, or maybe just scrape with the chainsaw. I'll get creative.
これで割れるんちゃうか、半分に。パカン。
なわけある。
わけねえことはねえで。
For narrow areas, I wanted to carve into it with a thin chainsaw bar, so I bought a thin bar from Tsumura when I got the big saw. I tried mounting the bar, but it didn't fit the chainsaw. With some tweaking, it might work, but the original steel bolts are too thick. Tsumura's bar is just a little too narrow. When I put the cover on, the chain got stuck and wouldn't move. It's a shame, but I can't use it.
動かんやろ。刃が当たるやろ。見えるんけ？
If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. So I switched back to the old bar and started scraping through the tight spots. But the bark pockets are round, so it's hard to clean them out with just a chainsaw. The worst part is deep inside the forked section, like a Totoro hole.
2つに割れるわ。
It's just a split from the back. But this part's not solid wood, it's bark. It might look rough, but using the chainsaw to dig it out worked best.
顔出したんやけど。
俺顔見たかったんや。
おい。これ何？
虫。
いや、何の？
こんなちっちゃい口で食ったやろ、こんなちっちゃい口で。これがほや。
いや、こんなのが全部食った後ってことだろ？
うん。どうしたのか。
珍しいもん持ってるよ。
これやね。大事大事で。
As expected, cleaning the inside of the forked section is tough. I tried using a random orbital sander and a belt sander while wearing a mask, but the mask must have slipped off at some point. I didn't even notice. This isn't solid wood, it's bark and bark pocket. The dust gets everywhere. Tight space is the hardest part.
よくってきたな。
Next, I sand the end grain of the tabletop. Last time, I used a hand plane and really worked it. But since I'm finishing with oil this time, I just use a sander and go over everything. Top, sides, the whole thing. It takes more time, but it's worth it.
Now, 今度ここにも芋虫が。ここにも虫おるで。ほら、ほら。
どこ。
動いてる動いてる。
どこ。持っとるよ。ちょっと待って。はい。ちょっと待って。なんで起こすんじゃいや。
As I thought, just the main body wasn't big enough to support the glass top. Since it's a big piece of glass, I'm thinking of growing a branch out from the middle like I initially planned. At first, I was going to cut a mortise and tenon to join firmly, but I'd already been cutting the back with a chainsaw and the log splits off sharply into two limbs. Since there wasn't much thickness from front to back, I didn't want to damage the base. So instead of cutting a mortise, I just slotted a branch into the gap in the crotch.
Oh, 固定した。
ありこれありなんけ。
変な感覚。
でももうちょいこの辺に欲しいわけじゃん。角度的に。そうそうそうそう。
こんなんやねんなこれ。これか。もうちょっとこう無理やりこうして。こうなんやね。なんやねん。エロい衝動になってきた。
Jamming round wood into another round surface is never easy to lock in. At first, I thought about cutting a square mortise, but round on round just doesn't hold. So I notched it to go in as deep as possible, letting the top and bottom get caught and stay in place. Honestly, it looks odd, and getting it to hold was a real struggle. It took about 10 tries, but I finally got it to stay. Now, I trimmed the top to match the base. With this extra branch in place, I've got plenty of surface area to support the glass. I make sure it's nice and secure. As long as the weight doesn't push it down, it should be fine.
今ので一部入ったかなって。
I've adjusted the front and back so that it doesn't wobble at all, so I think it's solid enough. I really wanted to use a keyaki branch, but I couldn't just cut down a live tree. So I'm using some random hardwood instead. Now, the base, or the support for the table, is done. But it turned out a little low. That's just all the height I had to work with. I want to raise it to about 720 to 730 millimeters, so I'm going to place it on a platform. Basically, I'm giving it a pair of wooden clogs.
こんな太いんけ
真っ黒やん。
真っ黒どこやねえなこれきっと皮むかなあかんやろ美味しそうなキノコ出とんな炊いて食うかほらこれ美味しそう
いやそのクワみたいなやつ。
皮むきよ
ほんまにそういう道具なの？
うんこういう道具やけどなかなか
鉄砲虫。
うわこれは鉄砲虫やろなうわどんだけおるやわからん
I haven't used this broad axe in forever. Can't even remember the last time. Back when I worked under my old boss, we used these a lot. But since striking out on my own, I've barely used it.
なんともないやろ色しとるやろケヤキ
あ、これ中の赤身は大丈夫なの？
大丈夫なの
いや、それ音の自分でもやったんそれ。
やったよいったほら割れとらんきれいな赤身や
もう俺も一切やない。
As you can see, if you leave a keyaki log for 5 or 6 years, it'll rot this much. This isn't bark. What's flaking off here is all sapwood.
これ透明人やろ
おいおいおいおいおい。
クワガタかなんかちゃうか
ほら。
クマンバチか
クマンバチ？
クマバチやろほらな
え、こんなん木の中で？
お中に
嘘やろ？
ほんまやって
ほんまやの？
早いんか遅いんかわからんな
No matter how much the sapwood rots, the heartwood stays strong. That's the thing about keyaki. The heartwood is still alive and holds up.
いやもう悪くないな。
Once it's decayed this far, you just mill it down and it won't warp anymore. This time, I wanted to add some simple legs underneath, so I'm using just the heartwood to make them.
金具にしたんだよやらこすぎて
これも木やろ？
木これが白いとこやって
Back in the day, we did a lot of log work like this. For big houses, we'd set 4 or 5 beams. Including the ridge and support beams, we needed about 3 logs, 12 to 13 meters long. We used maybe 10 logs total per house, shaping them by hand with a broad axe and an adze. When I started carpentry, log debarkers were just coming out, so we used both old and new tools. Eventually, everything shifted to power tools. Looking back, that kind of work was tough but nostalgic. I'd love to do it again, but these days, you rarely work with logs like this anymore. As for the legs, I'm keeping their shape as is. I just run the logs through with an electric planer. I shape them into 10 or 12-sided pieces. Then I cut them into round slices, about 12 to 13 centimeters thick, and plan to use them as legs.
重いんじゃねえや。これええっちこっちゃ。
I made 4 log slices. Cutting them with a chainsaw was tricky. It's hard to get all 4 the same thickness. I've seen videos where people run thin slices through the planer right after a rough cut. I used to do that too, but nowadays I avoid it. If the blade catches, it could ruin the whole machine. Instead, I line up 2 slices and plane them together so that they match. At first, I wanted to use them as full rounds, but they were wobbly, so I split them in half and used half rounds as the legs. Now that the base is ready, I'm applying insecticide before finishing with oil. There were still some live bugs, so ideally, I'd call a termite control professional. But this time, I just used the most expensive store-bought insecticide I could find and soaked all the sapwood with it. I let the insecticide dry overnight, and now I'm applying the oil finish. I'm just using some oil I had lying around. Over time, and maybe from the cold, it's gotten thicker. So instead of brushing it on, I let the wood absorb as much as it wants. I apply it generously. After letting it sit for a bit, I wipe off the excess. The sapwood, especially whether water or oil, just keeps soaking it up. For this kind of hardwood, the fibers act like tiny tubes and pull it in deep. The red heartwood looks great once oiled, but doesn't absorb much. I wipe it down once, then again, really buffing it. The more you polish, the shinier and more beautiful it gets. Now, let's try setting it up. With the extra height from the legs, about 12 to 13 centimeters, the table sits at around 73 centimeters, perfect height for a table. The glass panel was kindly provided by orderglass.com. They can make any size or shape you want. We lifted it together carefully. It's pretty heavy. It's just under 1 centimeter thick but very strong. Since it's tempered glass, it's nice and sturdy. Because it's clear, it really highlights the grain of the wood. Turns out, this one wiener holds up the glass top perfectly, and the whole piece ended up well balanced. Now, the round glass table is done. I didn't make the glass, but the keyaki base is fully handmade. Now that the glass is set on top, its clarity really shows off the bold growth rings in the wood. If I say so myself, it turned out to be a pretty great table. It was supposed to be just a simple Sunday DIY project, but it ended up taking 2 full days. But I'm happy with how it turned out. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.